Okay, you know what, McKenna, let's start, and then those who jump in will start to hear the combo and we'll record it.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds
so
good.
excellent. So this was an interesting way that we came up with this topic this month because, first of all, McKenna is studying naturopathic medicine in San Diego.
Hmm.
McKenna's a lifelong friend of mine. From that Instagram post, you can see that McKenna's been a part of my life for more than 20 years. And
Yes.
that was pretty cool to find that photo of you with Michaela.
Yeah, that was super sweet. I didn't even realize you had that.
I know. So, and then I've watched you progress through the years, and here you are now, a med student. So,
Yes.
um, we came up with this topic of women's health and prenatal health because McKenna just completed a case study for during school, right?
Hmm. Yeah, we have an integrated case studies class, and we were doing one just talking a lot about fertility and infertility, just because I feel like this is one of those issues that's just continuing to grow in our society. And then we had a little conversation about it, and you wanted to do a little conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's an important topic to talk about because when you are in the pre-family planning phases, as a young 20-year-old, even in your teens, you're not thinking about what could happen. And
Yeah,
you're also not really thinking about your body preparing for that during those early years.
no, not at all.
So I'll start with a little history about my background and my experience, and also why I got into Every Mother Counts, running for them. So, in my early 20s, I was an avid marathon runner. I was always an athlete, growing up, and then I really got into long distance running and, you know, training for marathons back to back, half marathons. It takes a toll on your body. And
Hmm.
with that comes hormonal imbalance, nutritional imbalances if you're not, really looking after yourself. In my early 20s, I would say I was that over healthy person.
Hmm.
And so I lost my menstrual cycle for a year in my early 20s. I was under my body fat count where I was balanced with my hormones. So even back then, I was very into the natural way of medicine and health, and so I spoke to a naturopath, and she put me on some Chinese herbs, which was including Chinese yam, and it's
Hmm.
a form of progesterone, natural progesterone. And
Hmm.
so that actually did bring my cycle back. We really monitored me. We made sure that I kept my hormones in balance and also my stress levels. I
Hmm.
acupuncture to calm the nervous system. I was still running, but with more support from a whole body, you know, perspective. So,
Yeah.
and then that passed, and I was about 22 then, and then I got married when I was 26. And you think you get married and you just start family planning and everything's gonna be like that.
Hmm.
And it wasn't. And I look back at it now and I think it was all the years prior to me family planning that didn't build my stepping stones to being ready with my body and mind, right?
Yeah.
So that took several years to finally land a pregnancy, and then 2 years after that, I was miscarrying. And it's pretty common, I would say. When I went through that, it was devastating. But I do believe that it's more common than women realize. That's
For
something
sure.
that needs to be shared, um, with communities because you feel you're alone and you don't know what's wrong with you. But these simple discussions, even here, McKenna, will help um, young women prepare themselves. And for those who are going through it right now, realize you're not alone, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, and this is where I also want to combine integrative health. I went through with the naturopath route, preparing my body when I lost my cycle. When I was miscarrying, BC Women's Hospital supported me in prenatal health and maternal health. And that's where I needed the medical system. They would monitor my pregnancies once I landed them and could hold them weekly with ultrasounds. Progesterone was added to my system, you know, to
Yeah.
sustain a pregnancy. So there's a little history of where I got and how I experienced infertility and maternal health. And now I want to know, I'm really curious what you're studying and how you can contribute to this.
Yeah, so I feel like there's so many contributing factors that go into this from as far back as, so I don't know if everyone knows this, it's not common knowledge, but basically the gametes that are in you, so your in your ovaries, like you have the ovaries that your and the eggs that your grandchildren are going to be. So what your like what my grandmother was doing was impacting like my development now, which is so crazy. So like you already have
Mm.
all of those egg cells in you. So like just thinking about like when you're like, oh, like I want to prepare my body, you're not just preparing your body, you're preparing your daughter and your granddaughter,
Mhm.
which is super crazy. Just that whole influence on
Yeah.
fertility there and how far that goes back. But what we were talking a lot about is just chronic stress and how that is super impactful on fertility. And I feel like this is really relevant nowadays just because of how so many people in society are chronically stressed out. And so many people struggle to enter their parasympathetic state and regulate their nervous system. And I know nervous system regulation is something that is talked about so frequently, but the way this actually impacts your fertility is crazy. So just to break it down in kind of like lay terms to get like a little bit of an understanding. So your stress, impacts your HPA, which is your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And this axis interferes with your
One sec, Matt. Lost the.
thalamic. Oh, am I back? Okay. Yeah, it interferes with your hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, which is responsible for producing GnRH, which is one of your gonadotropin releasing hormones, which then stimulates your luteinizing, your LH, and your FSH hormones, which are super important for ovulation, follicle development, and just like all normal reproductive function. So, some of the findings that chronic stress has been linked to is to alter your progesterone and estrogen balance, which you were mentioning is something you struggled with, and also something that I personally have struggled with as well. Chronic stress also increases ovarian cell apoptosis, which is basically cell death, programmed cell death that your body goes through. It reduces growth factors that are necessary for follicle development, and it just impairs like overall oocyte development. In addition, there's also associations with creating a less receptive uterine environment. So think of inflammation, reactive oxygen species, um, and more. And this is all just related to that stress that's driving that inflammation in your body. So there's all these correlations to like what stress is doing, and that's because when you are in a stressed out state, your body is just trying to survive. So reproducing isn't like something your body needs to do to be able to like live. So at that point, your body is kind of um, sending those nutrients and all of those, like the nutrients, blood flow, like you're not preserving your reproductive system, like you're preserving your body just to like live because you're living in this stressed out state where you don't like your body is like, I just want to survive. And at that point, it's like sending signals everywhere else. And I feel like something else that is important to note here as well is I feel like we're focusing a lot on like women and how chronic stress impacts them, but chronic stress is also super important in just sperm health and the sperm development and some of the things that chronic stress is related to for males in relation to infertility is it releases like inflammatory cytokines, which just creates the inflammation, increases the ROS, the reactive oxygen species. It impacts the sperm membranes, the mitochondria, and just like the overall sperm quality.
Mm.
Um, and it
Mm.
acts on some of your reproductive cells. So your like Sertoli and Leydig cells, which are responsible for like the development of your sperm and testosterone in men. It just yeah, like the way stress, like if you look at the way that cortisol is impacts every system in your body, like it blows your mind. And we're currently just living in a state where everyone is so chronically stressed and dysregulated. So all of these pathways are being influenced on that DNA level.
I absolutely agree with you on this whole concept that we're all in like fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
And you know, even from my own experience, when my husband and I couldn't even become pregnant, I think it clearly is it's a partnership, and if you're both stressed in a
Hmm.
state, that's not going to help anything. Um, and that really taught me also at that time that when we just let it's easier said than done, but when you just let things be, you know, I don't want to say let things go because it's not really that easy during that process to let it go.
Yeah.
But, you know, you could replace it with focusing your attention on something else as best as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and even the more like you folks, so obviously, like, you know, you're stressed because you want to get pregnant, and the more you stress about not getting pregnant, it's just creating that negative feedback loop where you're continuing in that cycle. And it's, like you said, so much easier said than done. But yeah, just figuring out ways that work for each individual to regulate their nervous system when we are constantly being stimulated from our environment and from toxins is so important. And unfortunately, I think this issue is just going to become more and more prevalent in society the further we go.
Yeah. And I think that that's just, you know, it's an obvious case across the board that everyone is in a need for nervous system balance and reset, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I can absolutely say that that makes sense that this will be a part of it. Um, what about, you know, environmental factors?
Yeah. So I feel like, again, there's a lot of environmental factors that people don't necessarily think about. And I think I'm more well versed just in like some of them for women, just because this is something I pay a bit more attention to. But
Yeah.
relating this back to even those hormone balances, like within your estrogen and progesterone, our environment is kind of we have so many phytoestrogens which mimic your regular estrogen. So these are found in fragrances, in foods, and this kind of shifts the balance between your estrogen and progesterone and creates not a like a fertile environment. It creates more of a hostile environment where
Yeah.
you're in balance, which leads to those PMS symptoms like cramping and heavy bleeding and nausea, which comes with pain, like periods. And those aren't necessarily like normal. Like when you have your hormones that are aligned, like your cycle should be rather, uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Like you shouldn't really realize like you are menstruating or ovulating. Like it's just like it should be easy. Like you shouldn't have debilitating cramps. And a lot of young women that do deal with these debilitating cramps are being told there's not many other options and that's normal. And I was one of those young women that had a major hormone imbalance, and my regular doctor was like, yeah, like the only option is just to go on birth control, and that's going to balance your hormones. And, you know, now I kind of look back at that and that is not the only option at all. And if a doctor is telling you that that is the only option, then there's like a serious conversation that they need to have. And they also just don't understand the entire physiological and biochemical pathways of how your body works because there's so much you can do to support your estrogen balance, your estrogen detox, because a lot of individuals are estrogen dominant, which just impacts the way you ovulate and just the way your cycle kind of like rises and falls, like your estrogen peaks and has a valley. Um, but yeah, so something for me was a bunch of different herbs that I used that I worked with my naturopath when I was younger to heal myself. But I get like, and also just like there's different nutrients like B vitamins, magnesium. So we're talking like folate is a really big one.
Yeah, I was put on folic acid. Folate.
Yes,
Yeah.
B6,
Hmm.
B12,
Hmm.
like all these different vitamins, nutrients, which are often can, if you don't have those, you're probably going to end up with those hormone imbalances as well. Because, and then there could be an issue of like GI systems not absorbing them or you're not taking them. So there's so many things to look at and consider.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
so
actually,
yeah,
it's so intricate. Our body is so complex. Um, and then ironically, if we keep it simple, it's
yeah,
it's interesting. What about for this is not just like you said for female health when you're talking about reproduction. Same thing
yeah,
for male friends, like preparing young men preparing to have a family.
yeah, exactly. So like even looking at that, so it's like if a male is out there that is surrounding themselves in toxins, so like we're talking like there's so many talk like EMFs, like drinking, like everything you do, whether you like it or not, is going to impact the way your cells interact and the way like the health of your cells. So just supporting, like you want to have the best quality mitochondria in your sperm cells that are going to be interacting with the egg. So if you have a weak cell, it's going to impact the way that your two cells are able to come together and essentially create your embryo. So for men, it's like it's like you want to increase your mitochondrial function, like you want to reduce your inflammation because again, like those cytokines and those prostaglandin, those like inflammatory compounds
Mhm.
are going to have negative interactions. So there's so many things that go into both sides, and even like the toxins, like limiting your toxin load is so important. Um, and something I think that is slowly starting to be talked about more, but I don't think it's at the forefront, especially for younger individuals.
No, and I think it's fantastic, McKenna, that you're addressing it as a younger person. You're 22, right?
Yeah,
I was 22 when I was running all those marathons and not thinking. I thought I was healthy. I was in the thick of, researching wellness back then, but
yeah,
it's different when you are consuming yourself with it and actually really understanding it.
yeah. And even coming back to you with like running and like obviously like, I think there's good and bad, but I think right now an issue that eh, like the trend right now for people is to be super thin and to have super low body fat, especially in women. And when you drop below that like 20%, 17% body fat in women specifically, your body is no longer able to ovulate properly. And that also can come like you're just because your body is stressed out. Like you don't have the means to support your body. So again, you're in fight or flight, just trying to survive,
Yeah.
and you're losing those fundamental processes such as ovulation and menstruation. So something I talk to my friends a lot about is like, yes, like you want to be healthy, but being healthy is being strong. Being healthy is eating well, it's supporting this, it's getting the right fat. It's not being super thin and not supporting your body in these processes that are like your body's meant to work a certain way and your body wants to work a certain way. And any sign or symptom that isn't allowing your body to
Yeah.
properly function is a red flag that should be a sign to you and your doctor that you need support somewhere. Where that is comes down to each individual and their specific program. So like for your case, like maybe running, like obviously, like yes, I'm not saying running is bad, but
No.
back-to-back marathons
Mhm, mhm.
probably weren't supporting your body, or you weren't getting the right
No.
nutrient load to support your body while you were being that active.
And not giving my body a chance to recover. Um,
Exactly.
and then definitely below 17% body fat, where
Yeah.
there's no recovery to get back to, when you are in a high level competitive sport, you have a competitive physique,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Compare it to like, I don't know, a boxer or a wrestler. You
Hmm.
have a weight class that you have to meet. Well, after your competitions, you're not necessarily sustaining that, right?
Yeah.
So that would be the same that I would compare it to for long distance running. And I think that's a really good point. Like, we're not here to say running's not good for you or so forth. It's just be be mindful when you are doing these sports to speak to a holistic health coach or a naturopath, keeping you on track and making sure you're healthy and you're getting all the nutrients you need. Um, you know,
Yeah, exactly. And I think just something that's important for women nowadays is getting your labs done, like getting, like seeing where your hormones are at. Because, I mean, obviously, like if you have signs and symptoms, like those are going to kind of alert you. But just so you know, like what your baseline is, if like family planning is something that you want to have in your future, like I feel like you're never too young to kind of think about this. And I mean, I talk a lot with like I have two younger sisters and just like the way like options for them and ways that they can feel supported. And I think that is just being able to have those conversations and also to make this more common knowledge because I don't think some of these topics and understandings are as accepted. Like even like perfumes, for example, like perfumes affect like your estrogen progesterone balance. I would say 90% of the world doesn't know that. So like, like understanding that and it's like, oh, like my little sister has really painful period cramps. I'm like, there's so many little things that are shifting your hormone balance. So just being mindful of things that you are probably unconsciously doing that could be impacting how you feel.
and I'm just sitting here looking at you that you are uh, 22 and I'm 48, and I'm looking at you thinking, hey, you are preparing yourself, McKenna, for a couple of years from now when hopefully you'll be a new mom. So
Hmm.
it's not just that you're preparing yourself in the present, you're preparing yourself for what's to come.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, like the more I learn too, I'm like, I'm not just preparing my body, I'm also preparing like I have all the eggs in me that my daughter will have. So like just kind of the more you become aware, the more it kind of motivates you to want to create the most ideal environment for your body to live in. And you kind of just think about these things in a different way. And I think that's just being mindful is
Mindful.
super important.
Yeah. And guys are not excluded.
No, and guys are exactly, I feel like for the longest time, infertility has been talked about as being like, oh, like a woman can't get pregnant. But a lot of the time, it's not having a strong enough sperm cell
Hmm.
that is able to also make that match. So I think just being aware of that and, you know, bringing life into this world is comes from both people and just looking at all the factors like they should be being tested, having their hormone levels checked, and like both male and female should be taking the necessary steps when they are trying to conceive. And this is, it's a whole
Yeah.
business at this point. And I just think it's going to continue to grow as I think infertility continues to sadly grow.
Hmm. Thank you, McKenna.
Yeah, of course.
We could keep going. Um, and I respect that at your age you're bringing it to a discussion, right?
Yeah, I think just the younger that you're able to kind of have these conversations or just become aware. And obviously, I'm in a very niche field where this is something I'm learning and I'm very passionate about. But I think even for me, just being able to provide some of my peers and friends in my community with some of this knowledge so that when the time comes for them, it's not like shocking information like, oh, like if I've been on if like I know someone that's been on birth control, I'm like, you should get off birth control. That's a whole other topic to get into, but like just if you want to have a child, like you need to give yourself the nutrients and support
That's right.
with
Support
the
your
right
body.
amount of time so that you're able to have the nutrients you need in your body to have a good uterine environment
Yeah,
to be able to even plant your egg.
exactly. And and you're making mindful suggestions to your friends. So then everyone can do what they want in the end. But you're, you know, you're studying this and it's evident that it's there. The issue is there, right?
Yeah, 100%. And exactly, like I'm not here to push any of my ideals on anyone at this point, but I just think the more knowledge with like an explanation that people can have and just like the understanding, because obviously right now, like I am going through this very extensive and intensive schooling that like I'm able to understand all of these pathways and decipher the research and do my own, form my own opinions. So I think just being able to share like what I learned is something that I find super empowering. And also at the end of the day, like I got into this medicine because I want to be able to help people and support people and allow them to live their healthiest
Yeah.
and be the best version of themselves. So like whatever I can do to support people, that's just what I want to do. So being able to, yeah, help my friends, help my
You are.
family,
You're
help
doing it right now,
everyone.
McKenna.
Oh,
You're
thank you.
doing it right now. Thank you, girl.
Of course.
That was an excellent chat, and I think we could carry on with it.
I think there's always so many more things that we would love to chat about. But yeah, I feel like if anyone has questions too that they want us to dive into, we're
Hmm.
always happy to chat or different pathways of research that they don't quite understand or they want
Hmm.
someone with a bit more of a science background. I'm always happy to look
Thank,
into anything.
thank you so much, and
Yes,
we'll
of
see you next.
course.
We're
Yes.
McKenna and
I look,
I are trying to do this monthly while she's studying, um, and and it's great because it's coming from our next generation. Everyone, right,
awesome.
right in the thick of it. Thanks, Mac.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we'll chat soon.
So have a great afternoon, and thank you everyone
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Ciao.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.